Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be a lore-based video. It's technically not a theory because it's just going to be me explaining lore aspects of the Crash Bandicoot franchise. And with all that said, let's just jump right into it. So this is one of the topics I see discussed most when it comes to like complaints about the Crash Bandicoot franchise. It's Bengal Tiny and Tasmanian Tiger Tiny, and people just hated Bengal Tiny. Unfortunately for the people who hated Bengal Tiny, he is canon to the franchise. People can say that, oh, the Mind Over Mutant games didn't happen, but they did happen, and Bengal Tiny is canon to the series. And they're not two separate characters, they're actually the same character. And that's what muddles the timeline and the events in the series, because how can they be the same character when they look so different? So I'm going to explain why Bengal Tiny looks like he does, and how he potentially reverted back to his original Tasmanian Tiger state. And then I'm going to use what lore we have given to us and see if we can have both of them exist at the same time. So we're going to jump right into a cutscene for you here. Actually, let me hold off on that. I'm going to show you a blurb from Kirsten Forbes, who worked on the Radical Crash Bandicoot games. So in this interview, it explains that Tiny in the Radical games is actually the same Tiny. It's not a different character, it is the Tiny the Tiger. So specifically I want to talk about this blurb right here. It says, Tiny was one of the first Cortex experiments with Mojo. This experiment turned Tiny into a smarter mutant with a different look. So Tiny was already the Tasmanian Tiger Tiny. And then, prior to the events of Crash of the Titans, Cortex experimented on Tiny with the Mojo mutation, and he became a Titan. And as many of you know, Titans are, generally most Titans are hybrid animals. So you have Shellephant, who is a crab and an elephant. You have Scorporella, who is a scorpion and a gorilla. You have Gore, who is a grizzly bear and a boar. So the fact that we have Tiny going from Tasmanian Tiger to Bengal Tiger, and Kirsten says that he was a Mojo experiment that is becoming a Titan, that to me says that they infused Bengal Tiger DNA with the Tasmanian Tiger DNA. So the Bengal Tiny that we see in Crash of the Titans is actually the Titan version of the Tasmanian Tiger Tiny with Bengal DNA. So that's flat out canon. Bengal Tiny is a different form of Tasmanian Tiger Tiny. However, we have 3 games now that take place after the events of Crash of the Titans and Crash Mind Over Mutant. And in those games, Tiny is back to his Tasmanian Tiger form. So it's not them ignoring continuity, but we have to fill in the gaps. So the way that I see that this could make sense is as follows. Now I'm going to show you a clip. So one of the plot points of Crash Mind Over Mutant is Dr. Cortex created the Envy helmet, or visor, whatever you want to call it, and it pumps bad mojo into whoever's wearing it. So in this cutscene, you're going to see Crunch and Coco transformed into Titans.
This is increditasticular! I'm getting up to the minute weather reports. It's hot.
And I'm attending a symposium on the effect of hungry hippos on children.
Are they supposed to be doing that?
Probably a feature. Don't worry about it.
I feel funny. Not ha-ha funny neither. Fold your laundry!
So now, here is Coco and Crunch as Titans. They have gone through their own Mojo experiment and they are Titans. So now I'm going to show you how to reverse becoming a Titan. So after Crash fights Coco and removes her Envy headset, this is what happens.
Hello?
Coco, you're back to normal. The Envy loaded you up with some sort of dark mojo. I could feel my brother's influence pervading you.
Oh, but it was so cool. Are you sure it wasn't nefarious?
Oh yeah, you practically grew horns.
So, you have Coco, normal. She gets Mojo infused into her, becomes a Titan, and when the Mojo is extracted from her, she becomes normal again. So now we have the explanation on how Tasmanian Tiger Tiny became Bengal Tiger Tiny. Bengal Tiny. Okay, now we know through Kristen Forbes how Tasmanian Tiger Tiny became Bengal Tiny. And with the lore that we just saw with Coco, it could be easily assumed that to get Bengal Tiny to go back to Tasmanian Tiger Tiny, you would just have to remove the Mojo. But how can you remove the Mojo from someone who isn't wearing an Envy helmet? I'm going to show you another clip. So now this cutscene is going to explain how we get the Dark Mojo or Bad Mojo into the Envy devices.
Stealing my mojo to power your envies. That's low even for you. But why do you keep feeding me cake?
Oh, that. I just thought it would be mean.
So they have a device that looks like cow udders that can extract Mojo from Uka Uka. So I think it's completely possible that they could have taken Bengal Tiny Tiger, put him in this device, extracted the Mojo out of him, the Dark Mojo, Evil Mojo, Bad Mojo, whatever you want to call it, because they use multiple phrases to explain what it is. And that would make him revert back into the Tasmanian Tiger Tiny that we all know and love. So that explains how he became one and how he can revert back to his original form. But now I'm going to explain to everyone how we can have both, and they could both be characters. Similar to how we have Crash and Fake Crash, I think that there's a lore explanation on how we can have Tasmanian Tiger Tiny and Bengal Tiny. So now I'm going to show you another video to explain that. So again, we're going back into the Radical lore, and this clip is of Cortex capturing Crash and making Carbon Crash.
So I decided to turn the tables and have you defeated by an army of you. Meet the Make-Anotherator. Now for a...
So, Cortex, prior to reverting Tiny back to his Tasmanian Tiger form, could have used the Make-Anotherator, zapped Tiny, who would be Bengal Tiny at this point. So then there would be two Bengal Tinies. Then he could have taken the clone and set him aside. So you would have the Bengal Tiny clone. And then you can take the original Tiny, put him in the Mojo extractor machine, and make him go back to his Tasmanian Tiger form. So then you could canonically have both Tiny characters existing at the same time. So I think that would be really neat. And like I said, it would add to the series how we have Crash and we have Fake Crash. Now we could have Tiny and Bengal Tiny. And I just think that would be really neat. And I hope you guys understood everything. I hope I explained it as well as I think I did. But with that all said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, I make these for you guys. I don't get that many views, but I do it for the passion of the series. And if you've made it to the end, Let's say the secret word is Bengal Tiny. Type Bengal Tiny in the comment section. Okay, everyone, you take care. Have a great night.